David Mitchell, welcome to Booktopia.
Thank you very much, Andrew. It's great to be here. I'm a Booktopian.
Thank you. I'd like to delve into something a little bit deeper that I've heard you discuss before when you talk about writers. I'd like to name 3 different types of writers to you, and you can discuss, dare I say it, maybe rank those writers for me. I've heard you discuss in the past.
Mm-hmm.
So we have short story writers, novelists, and poets.
Okay, it's very easy, Andrew. Poets are at the top. They are the apex predators.
Yeah.
They're the purest. And one rank down are short story writers, and at the bottom of those 3 are novelists. Because poets cannot go wrong. If they do, they've got a dead poem on their hands.
Yeah.
Short story writers, also, there's not a lot of leeway. A few duff sentences, one wrong turn, and the shimmering magic that inflates and causes a short story to ascend fails, and it comes crashing down to earth. Novels, however, they are a much more forgiving form. They are baggy and capacious. They are those cargo pants that you wear on long flights that have lots of pockets to put things in. They're baggy, as opposed to the lycra trousers that that cyclists wear on expensive bicycles.
Do you think, speaking of poetry, one of my favourite poems is Bukowski, So You Want to Be a Writer, and he talks about if you want to be a writer.
I don't know.
Well, he says it's basically listing all these reasons possibly why you shouldn't be a writer, but he talks about a compulsion, and he says if it doesn't shine out of your guts, don't be a writer. And he says in spite of everything, if you still want to be a writer, in spite of all these negatives, be a writer. Do you remember the first time you felt that compulsion, that you needed to write, that was what made you happy, that's what you wanted to do in life?
There wasn't one road to Damascus moment. But I do remember being very young, kind of 8, 9 years old or so, and reading certain books, Watership Down or A Wizard of Earthsea by Ursula Le Guin, and thinking, I absolutely have to do that.
Yeah.
I want to make worlds and make stories happen inside them, and to do to other people what these books just did to me.
Yeah.
I do remember feeling that. Anecdotes have beginnings and ends, and anecdotes make for good interviews, but reality is generally a bit messy and fuzzy, don't you find?
Well, this interview is deep in reality. I want this to be messy. I don't. We're not interested in anecdotes. You know, one of the really interesting things, and this goes into your writing as well, that I feel that your stories, your books, I feel like you're sort of a steward of the story, because the voices you use, particularly with the bone clocks, I can't tell it's you writing it. I can't see your voice in it at all. There's all these other voices. I feel like you're pushing it along, you're pushing these characters that you know and you've created, and they're telling the story. Do you feel that when you're writing?
Well, I'm sitting very calmly on your sofa, Andrew, but internally I'm doing, yes! I mean, yes, that's what I'm after. That's my job.
Yeah.
It's my job to bring other people into being. They're not real, but in fictional world they are, and they need to differ, otherwise it would be being John Malkovich with all the characters talking and looking and sounding the same. That's no good. The big hairy books I revere are populated by a varying cast, and they talk differently, have different backgrounds, different genders, different ethnicities, different educational levels, different relationships with language.
Well, there's a real Dickensian slant to a lot of your work as well. Is that inspired by that?
Kantian slant.
Dickensian.
Oh, Dickensian slant.
Yeah.
I thought, whoa!
Look,
Booktopia.
That's how we roll at Booktopia.
He's probably the master. Speaking novel. I mean, there's some other really good contenders, and you did write a bit of dross, but not much.
Yeah.
and when he's at his best, David Copperfield, Nicholas Nickleby, Great Expectations, Bleak House. God, Bleak House is good.
Yeah.
He kind of wrote the rule book, which, of course, it's an art. Rule books are malleable, but yeah, I mean, you would be ill-advised to not read Dickens if you're interested in writing.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
he just did it so well and so early on.
Yeah, and still so it resonates so much now.
They're great. They're just great. They're just great. Yeah, it's a totally it's thank heavens for a lot of us in the first world. Life is much more pleasant than it was in Victorian London, and a lot of things have changed. But the spell those books make, those worlds they allow you to inhabit. You don't just read them; you inhabit them.
Yeah, that's true.
That hasn't changed at all.
Yeah, yeah.
And then he just pulls these lines out of the hat, like kind of that there is no better opening to a novel than A Tale of Two Cities. It's just there isn't one.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Yeah, no, right. From the first line.
That's a poem.
From that famous first line.
Yeah. He grafts poetry into some sections of his books, and he's great. He's just great.
That's a beautiful way to put it. Now, I do have to say, we don't want this video to age, but I do want to talk about your new novel that was announced recently, and I think the influence that Twitter and possibly another famous novelist played in the part.
Slade House.
Yeah.
Yeah. Slade House it's a sort of spin-off prequel in a way of the Bone Clocks, but a bit. It started life as an idea that the Bone Clocks moved away from, and then thinking of thought of it, and during it was an unthought out remark I made to the digital media person my publishers over lunch one day. I said, this story, it might be really good on Twitter, and kind of her eyes, yes, exactly, yes, you will not do anything else until you've done this story. She's very persuasive, Jack Nicholson way. So I wrote the story, translated it into Twitterese, translated it into tweets. It makes sense. It's called The Right Sort. We tweeted it last summer over about a 2-week period. A cluster of tweets in the morning when people were going to work, then a cluster of tweets in the evening when they were coming back. Did well, got lots of followers. I can't remember the number, but kind of healthy 5 figures, I think. And then I thought, okay, that's that done. But then I kept sort of thinking about it more during publication of Bone Clocks, and thinking that sort of raised more questions than it answered in that story. So I went back and wrote a second part to it, but there's a good reason why it was a Twitter story. The boy in it has stolen some of his mother's Valium tablets. He is neuroatypical, and the world is a flooding mess of sensations and chaos for him, and he likes the Valium because it breaks it down into a nice sequence of short throbs of perception, or tweets. There's a good reason for doing that story. So that's how I felt I could do it and it not be a gimmick. The other parts, however, didn't really have a device to justify its publishing on Twitter format. Plus, it's quite nice to occasionally get paid for your work. So I retranslated The Right Sort back into what they call balloonist's prose, looking down on the page. The traditional format, as opposed to train window prose where it's flashing by at the speed of tweets. And then I wrote the second part, for which I couldn't really think of a good reason to tweet it. There isn't anything in the story that wants it to be a Twitter story. 3, 4, and 5. Sort of each one takes place on what the entities that inhabit Slade House call an open day. It's normally a place you can't get to. It's normally not there. But every 9 years, some window of time opens, and the whole diabolical engine needs recharging. And I won't tell you too much from that, but yeah, it's a sort of.
I'm excited.
Oh,
I'm
thank
very
you.
excited. Well,
Thank you
look,
very much.
I'm sure people are going to be watching this, and thank you so much for coming in. And by the time this comes out, I think they'll be pretty excited to hear some of the first words about what will be a really exciting novel coming out soon. Thank you so much.
It's a real pleasure.
Thanks so much. And you can grab all of David's books from booktopia.com.au right now.